Hey friends, welcome back to Not Your Therapist, the podcast where I navigate life's chaos with a dash of humor and a heck of a lot of honesty. Today, we're talking about a universal parenting challenge, tantrums. If you've ever found yourself in the middle of a frickin' Target with a screaming toddler because you told him no that he couldn't eat the Play-Doh that you were going to buy for him, we are very similar, friends, because I've been there too. I've left many a full cart in a store because I had to handle my business, and my business is a crazy person, a tiny, crazy person. We're going to dive into why tantrums even happen in the first place, how to handle them without losing your mind, and how to recognize if your kid's meltdowns are triggering something deeper within you. Plus, I'm going to share a little bit about my own toddler tantrum escapades and how my childhood shaped the way I handle big old feelings. Let's get into it. Hey there, and welcome to Not Your Therapist, the no BS podcast where I ditch the therapy couch and get real about life, love, work, and all the messy in-betweens. I'm Kayla Riley, a licensed therapist and founder of a group practice that now runs without me, giving me freedom to spend more time with my littles and to share the secrets of wellness I've learned with people like you. This isn't therapy. It's your go-to for real talk, practical tips, and the occasional truth bomb to help you thrive. And the best part? No diagnosis, no insurance company constraints. I get to take off the white gloves and tell it like it is because I'm not your therapist. If you're ready to break free from unhealthy patterns, navigate the messiness of life with more ease, and uncover the magic in your everyday moments, you're in the right place. Welcome to your healing era, friends. Let's do this. Here's the deal, tantrums are normal. They're not a sign that you're failing as a parent, nor are they an indication that your toddler is bad or he's destined for a life of rebellion. Tantrums are just your child's way of saying, I have big feelings and I don't know what the heck to do with them. Psychologically, toddlers' brains are still developing, especially the parts that regulate emotions and impulse control. When a toddler's escalated, their brain is operating entirely, almost entirely, from the amygdala, which is the fight, flight, or freeze center, which means that reasoning with them in that moment is nearly impossible. They're like little soda bottles with the little Mentos in it, and you shake it up and that's the tantrum. And in fact, toddlers have a very limited vocabulary. It's no wonder their frustration seems to explode sometimes. Trying to talk them out of it while they're in a full-blown meltdown is like trying to negotiate with a tornado. It's just not going to work. Let the storm pass. Have the conversation after if you must. However, the little mini therapy sessions just aren't effective with toddlers. Sorry, they're just not. I've seen many a parent do it though. They grab their kid and they bring them over and they explain to them why that's not nice. Yeah, not gonna work with a toddler. But anyways, my toddler last week had a full-blown meltdown because I wouldn't let him wear rain boots to bed. Usually I let that argument go. He has this weird thing about his feet. And if it were up to him, he would wear shoes or rain boots 24/7, which is pretty cute for the most part. Like I'll let him wear rain boots and he'll be in like a weird t-shirt and pajama pants and rain boots and people think it's cute. Fine. But that one night I took off his rain boots to change his diaper and that sounded weird. I didn't change the diaper on his feet. I took his rain boots off so that I could take his pants off and change his diaper, get him into jammies. You get it. Anyways, I took off the rain boots and the smell was so bad. I thought that my husband's feet were bad. I can only imagine how bad it's going to be, the stank on this boy when he's in puberty. I digress. I didn't let him wear the rain boots that night because I feel like his nasty ass feet needed to air out, and we had the epic meltdown of a lifetime. He was out of control. Key takeaway, it's not personal. They're not trying to ruin your day. They're not being bad. They're trying to make sense of their feelings. Okay, let's talk about something deeper. Why is your toddler crying or whining upsetting you so much? Is it triggering you? Some people aren't bothered at all by their kid or another kid whining or crying. One of my friends, her husband, just is not bothered by whining, crying. He's able to just tune it out. For me, it makes me feel like I'm being turned inside out. It is so awful. For some of us, these tantrums aren't just annoying, they're overwhelming and unbearable. And that might be because they're touching a nerve from our own past. So when I was a kid, my parents had a really hard time staying calm when I was expressing big feelings because they were both, victims of childhood chaos. They both were brought up in homes where there was a lot of stuff. My mom's dad died early when he got cancer. My dad's dad was a hardcore addict, so he was irrational. So I think if there is trauma and chaos and you were brought up in a toxic home, it makes sense to me that dealing with the feelings of our children are going to be really hard because my parents would yell or shut down, and I learned that big emotions were something to be avoided or silenced. Fast forward to me as a mom now, when my toddler cries, my gut reaction is, fix it, fast, I have this big urgency that's stirred up within my chest. I can just feel it in my chest. It is hardcore. Not because it is urgent, but because it feels urgent to me. So here's how to recognize if you are also being triggered when your toddlers are having a meltdown. If you feel irrationally angry or anxious when your toddler cries, plug in here. My husband's reaction is anger, full-blown anger. When my daughter was born and I would leave her so that I could go get my nails done or whatever, take some time away from the baby, he would have such a hard time because when she cried, he just had this trigger where he would feel incredibly angry and he would say to me, maybe I need therapy. And I told him, yeah, maybe. If your family always reacted to big feelings with anger and that's what's being stirred up in you, maybe it's time to address those things. Anyways, another sign that you're being triggered is having flashbacks to moments when your own feelings were dismissed as a child. So if it kind of stirs up these old memories for you, there you go. That's a sign. We call that a flashback in the psychology world. If you're having these flashbacks, there you go. You're being triggered. The last one is you feel desperate to stop the crying, even if it's over something minor, and rationally, you know that it's okay that your toddler's having a meltdown. But if you're feeling desperate to stop the crying, even though you know rationally, let them have their big feelings, it's not that big of a deal, boom, you're being triggered. So this doesn't mean that you're a bad parent if you're being triggered. It means you're human, and you recognizing this trigger is the first step to unwiring it, healing them. I often say to people who have lots of quote unquote buttons, it's not your fault that the buttons are there, but it is your responsibility to unwire them so that you're not just trigger happy all the time. And that's a lot of healing in therapy or in mental health coaching, is learning to identify what are my triggers, where did they come from, and how do I unwire them so that I can move through life without being escalated all the time or reactive. Let's get into the nitty-gritty of managing tantrums. Here's what works and what does not. Do stay calm, or at least pretend to. Put on that poker face, y'all. Your energy is going to set the tone. You can use simple phrases like, hey, I see that you're upset, to validate your toddler's feelings without giving in to them. Offer choices when possible to empower the kid. So, do you want to walk or do you want me to carry you? Do you want to wear your jacket or would you like us to just carry it to the car? Right? There's your little choice. Sometimes that really helps make the toddler feel more empowered, and sometimes it squashes the tantrum, sometimes not so much, but you've empowered them through offering that choice. Next one is physically creating a boundary when necessary. Make sure they're safe and others are safe from them. When my toddler is tired and cranky and I know that there's an impending tantrum, I want to make sure that he's away from my baby. I say baby, but she's 1 now. I know for a fact that when his sympathetic nervous system is in full-fledged escalation, he's going to get aggressive with her. I know it's going to happen. And instead of being angry or frustrated at him about it, I can physically put myself in between the two of them. The next one is taking a really deep breath before you react. Give yourself that pause. Don't feel like you have to automatically manage or react or respond. I think that we've lost the art of the pause. Taking a pause, giving yourself a beat can help bring that more rational mind online so that you can make a better choice. All right, here are our don'ts. Do not take the tantrum personally. It is not about you. Easier said than done when they're throwing green beans at you. Do not match their energy. When you start yelling, it's not helping anyone. In fact, if you escalate, you might reinforce their behavior or even frighten them, which can intensify the meltdown and make it harder for them to calm down. Adversely, some people make the mistake that when they yell at kids and get them to stop, they make the mistake of thinking, oh yeah, yelling's working, but you're really just teaching them to shove down their feelings and walk on eggshells around you, and it's actually quite emotionally abusive. My dad always says to us when he's around and he's watching Miles have his little tantrums, he looks at me in exasperation, and one day he finally made a comment and was like, he needs to be scared of one of y'all. He's running the show. And I'm like, no, he's not running the show. He's just allowed to have feelings. And if he wants to have his tantrum, let him have his tantrum. He's not hurting anybody, right? Like, he can have his tantrum. That's developmentally appropriate. I don't want him to be scared of me. And my husband certainly doesn't want him to be scared of him. So, bada bing. I've seen those videos online of a dad like screaming in a poor little baby's face. And he's like, see, you just have to be the alpha. And it's like, oh God, there's the next generation of toxic masculinity just being bred. Ugh. Don't do it. Don't yell. Come on, be an adult. The other don't try to logic them out of it. Oh God, please stop having these little mini therapy sessions. Toddlers are not operating on logic. They are all pure emotion and instinct. Their amygdala is activated and they don't have the capacity to shift gears or process reasoning until they've calmed down. Now, here's a mistake parents make. Sometimes parents have these little mini therapy sessions at their kid while the kid's like crying and trying and just like letting out the feelings, letting them out. And then eventually the child stops crying, starts responding, and the parent thinks, yeah, that worked. Explaining myself, explaining why that wasn't nice, explaining why he can't eat Play-Doh for lunch, whatever. However, it's not you lecturing the kid that worked. It was time and you being calm. So you could just shut your mouth and hold the kid, or you could just shut your mouth and just sit, or you could continue to lecture them. That's fine too. But from my perspective, it's a waste of your time. There's a woman on Instagram, I think her handle is like Brat Busters. She's hilarious. I love watching her because she talks about this kind of stuff a lot, and it actually really helps me to see those reels as I'm scrolling on the gram at night because it's a good reminder. Don't do little therapy sessions. Toddlers are all about clear, consistent action. It's just true. All right, bonus tip, creating a mantra for yourself like this is temporary, or they are learning and so am I, or this is developmentally appropriate. I have to give them the dignity to experience their own feelings. These little mantras can really help us in those moments where their escalation is triggering us and we're escalating, and we need to kind of bring our brains back online. That's the beauty of the adult brain. We have a prefrontal cortex. We can pump the brakes on our impulses. We can make a choice not to react, rather to take a break, take a pause, and respond rationally. Now, we have that ability. Do we always choose that? No, but nobody's perfect, and we're not striving for perfection here. We're striving to be just a little bit better than we were yesterday. And that's what matters, is showing up and trying to do just a little bit better than you did before. You're not competing against anyone but yourself. If tantrums set off your internal alarms, here's what you can do to manage your own reactions. So acknowledging what's happening inside of you. Are you reacting to your toddler or to a memory of your own past? And when I say memory, people think, I'm not thinking of a memory. No, but maybe it's an echo of a feeling, right? So I know for me, or for people who had really expressive, angry, dominant parents, they might feel really minimized or out of control or anxious. So if that's the feeling that's coming up for you, you might be reacting to your past. You also want to use grounding techniques, so strategies like deep breathing or naming 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can smell, right? All of those little mindfulness practices. And if you haven't already, hop on over to my mindfulness that won't make you want to eye roll episode. It was way back when, I think it was episode 2 or 3. Go check that out. That might help here. But using these mindfulness strategies to bring yourself back to the present, it also brings back online that prefrontal cortex that helps you get grounded and respond instead of reacting, like I mentioned earlier. Okay, affirmations. So like I had mentioned earlier, taking a little mantra or an affirmation that you can repeat to yourself can be really helpful here. Their emotions are not my emergency. I love that one. I use that one a lot. I actually have it written down on a Post-it note right outside of my bedroom door, and it's so good to remember. Their emotions are not my emergency. That really speaks to how I feel when my toddlers are starting to have a tantrum. I feel urgent. I feel like it's an emergency. It's not. It's just feelings. It's just emotions. Really good reminder for me. Okay, the other one is making sure that your needs are being met consistently. So being proactive as a parent is often more effective than reactive strategies. So yeah, you can practice deep breathing when you're freaking out and you're being triggered. But if you go make sure your cup is full and you show up in every environment to your kid well rested, taken care of, your hair's done, you're in a nice outfit, your laundry is not building up, haunting you, you're going to feel a lot more capable of staying calm in those challenging moments than you are if you have an empty tank. And let me tell you something about mental health. If you have an empty tank and you're not taking care of your needs, your triggers are going to be easier to push. Your buttons, triggers, whatever you want to call them, they are going to be way bigger and way easier to push than if you are rested and taken care of and on your A game. And lastly, seek support. If you're having a hard time unpacking old wounds and learning healthier responses to things, seek a therapist or a mental health coach. There is such power in going to someone who can act as a mirror for you. They can reflect to you what they see happening. They can also provide you with a little bit of accountability. A lot of us need that. We need accountability partners. Not only that, but there are so many other skills than the ones I've mentioned today and interventions to help you process old stuff. Here's the silver lining, y'all. Tantrums don't last forever. This is a season, not a sentence. It's totally exhausting, but it's also an opportunity to teach your child emotional regulation, a skill they're going to use their entire life. By staying calm, or at least trying to, you're giving your kid permission to experience the emotional spectrum and create a trusting relationship, a safe attachment with you. That's going to really matter. They know that you're not going to leave them. You're going to love them. You're going to be their rock, regardless of what they go through. Now, this doesn't mean letting them do whatever the hell they want to avoid tantrums, which some of us do. Don't do that. Embrace that they're going to have tantrums. Set those boundaries. Be a firm parent. But when they do have those tantrums, allow them to express their big feelings. Love them anyways. The other day, I heard another therapist refer to this as being the anchor. So if your child is the ship and the ocean is feelings and life, there are going to be storms and you want to be their anchor. So imagining this image can be a really nice place to visit when you're trying to hold it together. Take a moment to reflect on the funny or sweet moments that balance out the chaos. There are plenty of them. Don't get sucked into the dark stormies. It's okay to be blue, but if you get deep and stormy blue, that's when a little bit of depression and burnout slipping in, and it's time to refill your cup or maybe get some support. If you're in the trenches of tantrum season, you are not alone. You're doing hard, important work raising these tiny humans, even if it doesn't always feel that way. Remember, toddlers are learning, and so are you. Give yourself grace, laugh when you can, and don't be afraid to ask for help when you need it. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with a fellow parent who could use a little extra support or a little validation because they're going through the same darn thing. It really helps me to serve more people by getting the word out there. And don't forget to check out my free audio training. It's really good. Not many people have downloaded it, but it's super good. I put a lot of effort into it. It's called Get Unstuck, 3 Strategies to Breaking Unhealthy Patterns. You can go over and grab it at KaylaRiley.com. Until next time, take care of yourself and your little ones. You've got this. I'll see you soon.